it comes to stealing cars, little kids are probably the last person you'd expect to come up. I mean, can you even arrest a 5-year-old? Hey, little Jimmy, I saw that. Put the Spider-Man stickers back right now. Most times, the only things young kids will steal are little things, but stick around to find out how one kid got into a high-speed chase and had a police helicopter after him. And be sure to like this video or a small child will jack your ride. I wouldn't risk it, but you don't have to because you'll know just what to do after watching 10 kids who stole cars. Number 10. As a kid, it's hard to not want candy 24/7, and most of us would do just about anything to get a piece. One thing most of us wouldn't do, however, is take our grandpa's SUV and drive it off the nearest candy store. But at the age of 4 years old, this kid did exactly that.
And how fast were you going, do you know?
I hit this gas brake and like that.
And where were you going?
To the gas station.
How come?
Because I have Reese's.
Yep, this kid took his grandpa's whip just to grab some Reese's. He literally learned how to drive just by watching other people. Now that is one smart kid. Then with that knowledge, he drove down a series of winding roads that he committed to memory just to get to the gas station so he could pick up that sweet treat. Thankfully, the boy got there safely, albeit he took out a few mailboxes and clipped a tree along the way. Sadly though, he didn't get his peanut butter cups, and as punishment for his endeavors in literal Grand Theft Auto, he won't be getting any sweets anytime soon. I respect the kid for his effort here, but next time, let's hope his sweet tooth keeps him on the right side of the law. Number 9. While the last kid might have accidentally broke the law, this next one did it intentionally. After getting into a scuffle with his mom, this 7-year-old decided to head out, but not before grabbing his grandmother's car keys. The boy grabbed a friend who was into hood rat stuff, and the two took off without any destination in mind.
I took my grandma's car because I got mad at my mom, and then I saw and had my friend come in, and he smokes with cigarettes.
He started the vehicle and put it into gear.
I yanked the thing.
And off they went.
Considering the kid could barely see over the steering wheel, I'm surprised he and his friend made it through the drive without any injuries. Unfortunately for him, the car was pretty much destroyed, and boy, was he in trouble. I don't know of any insurance providers that cover grandkids in their plans, but this woman might want to look into it. Although I'd imagine punishments were surely in order after this scary joyride. At least the kids made it out safe and all, but next time they should probably keep the keys far away from this little delinquent's hands. Number 8. What is up with all these 7-year-olds wanting to get on the roads early? Like, I respect the grind, little dude, but you gotta wait a couple more years. This little guy just wanted to get out and know what it was like to get behind the wheel of a car. So instead of waiting until his 16th birthday, he just got up, put the keys in the ignition, and
Take a look at this dash cam video from a cruiser in Plain City, Utah, as an officer chased down a suspect driving erratically, running through 2 stop signs. The chase lasted for several miles, and when the car finally stopped, a 7-year-old boy got out, ran out actually, from behind the wheel.
Even if they were only going 20 to 30 miles per hour, for a kid, that was quite the high-speed chase. He even kept running after ditching the car, heading into his home to get his dad. The kid's old man had zero idea where his kid was, so he was panicked until those same police came knocking at his door. The dad here was, of course, a little mad at his son, but nevertheless very thankful that nobody was injured in the kid's morning drive. After this early morning endeavor, the family went on to Sunday church, and I'm guessing they all prayed that this kid waits another 9 years before getting into the driver's seat again. Number 7. Imagine you're 12 years old, just waking up for the morning, and all of a sudden, you hear screaming followed by a loud crash. Like any curious kid, you'd run outside to see what all the noise was about, and you see a car flipped over and a Comcast pole knocked down? If I'm that kid, I'd probably chalk it up to being a really weird dream after a night of playing GTA. But in the case of this kid, it was completely real, and the circumstances surrounding it are even more wild than I would ever dream up.
Tire marks in the dirt leading to a knockdown Comcast pole teetering on the cable. Pieces of the car's lights, tires left behind.
I was sleeping and I woke up to screaming and I heard something crash.
I doubt this family is ever gonna let that kid near any of their cars again. Like, how does this kid just take their family friend's car after those same people offered to teach him how to drive? He, of course, went on to crash the vehicle. Thankfully, though, after the crash, he made it out unscathed. But to the surprise of everybody watching the incident, this guy had a few years before he should even be thinking about getting behind the wheel. Unfortunately for him, time, though, instead of building a sweet house in Minecraft like most 12-year-olds, this joyride was him building a juvenile record. He certainly isn't going to be mining diamonds in juvie, that's for sure. Number 6. If you look up the word rebellious in the dictionary, a link to this kid's police chase will be right there next to a picture of my man Han Solo. Okay, seriously though, this kid reminds me of a real-life Bart Simpson with his overly defiant behavior. And after being fed up on a boring day, this kid decided it would be a great idea to take his dad's car out for a spin on the highway. This should probably go without saying, but this wasn't exactly the best decision for a 10-year-old to make. 50 miles? How does this even happen? Allegedly, the kid was even reaching speeds of over 100 miles per hour at some points in the chase. And to make matters worse for the kid, the police weren't the only ones hot on his tail. If I were him, I'd be running too. There isn't any punishment out there that's worse than what a mad mama can cook up. Well, unless you count being charged as a felon for this dangerous attempt at entertainment. Fortunately for the boy, though, nobody was seriously harmed in the incident. But after this wild ride, I hope the kid's finding different ways to keep himself busy. Maybe he can play some Minecraft with our last entry. Number 5. So far, we've seen some crazy things that kids have done with these stolen vehicles, some even committing felonies in the process. But out of all of these entries, we haven't seen any of them actively trying to run officers off the road. That all changed with this 15-year-old who snagged the keys to one of his school's buses, then decided to take the big yellow vehicle for a spin. This kid is all over the place, going side to side along this mostly quiet highway. He continues on for a while, driving erratically before eventually...
Watch out. Just crashed down into a unit.
Well, here we go.
Yeah, this didn't look like any ordinary field trip. In fact, it kind of looked like he took some driving tips from Miss Frizzle. Jokes aside, in that collision, he and the officer were hurt, but neither of them received any fatal injuries, thankfully. What this 15-year-old did receive, however, were some criminal charges, including aggravated assault, evading, and grand theft auto. It's a great thing that there were no other kids aboard, otherwise he would be in a whole nother mess. Number 4. Speaking of messy situations, just picture you're out at work having a totally average day when suddenly you get a call from your local police station. Any natural reaction to that call would be, well, why are the cops trying to get a hold of me? And I'm sure the last thing any of us would expect is that a 12-year-old kid drove a car into our home. For this guy, that was his reality.
Say it all started after they got the call. A 12-year-old boy just stole his parents' new Ford Escape. Neighbors who shared these photos with us say firefighters got to the scene after the 12-year-old crashed into the duplex. That's when he took off running.
That's gotta suck for sure, but at least nobody was injured in the home. Funnily enough, the guy's mother was inside, and she didn't even hear a single sound. This lady sounds like the kind of woman who could sleep through the end of the world. After the kid collided with the garage, he attempted to book it on foot before inevitably being caught by officers. Trying to make an excuse he could, he told officers that his parents should have never left the keys there for him to take in the first place. Talk about a little brat. And to make matters worse for the parents, the car he crashed was brand new. It was even yet to be insured. Looks like this kid's college fund is being spent early to get his parents a new car. Let's just hope he doesn't decide to have another joyride in that one. Number 3. The last kid didn't have an excuse for committing grand theft auto, but if there was ever any good excuse for stealing a car, it's gotta be this little guy. I don't know about you, but if I ever missed the school bus as a kid, I'd head back inside and ask my mom if I could skip the day. This kid wasn't really interested in that route, and instead opted to drive himself to class. And he must have had a field trip or something if he was excited to go to school. On this day, though, his field trip was the 10-mile drive from home to his school. And credit to the kid, he made it almost all of the way to class before he swerved and hit a telephone pole. Now, thankfully, he did make it out of the collision, okay? And considering he made it so far, hopefully his teachers made an exception and marked him present for the great effort he made in getting to school that day. But maybe next time, wake up a little earlier and be ready for that bus, bud. Number 2. Imagine stopping at a gas station, heading inside and grabbing some snacks before you turn around and realize your car is being stolen. Then you find out about an hour later that your missing vehicle was found, but that it was also currently in a high-speed chase with a local police department. Those cops have a high-speed pursuit with a criminal that's only 14 years old. I guess the kid was tired of watching police chases on TV and decided to give one a go himself. However, the kid wasn't the most driven on keeping his new ride and unfortunately lasted just under for a minute in the chase before having to ditch his new wheels and bail on foot. After being found by the cops, it didn't take long to apprehend him, and thankfully for everyone involved, the car wasn't damaged and nobody hurt. But even if he was hurt physically, this kid's criminal record is going to be damaged for a long time. And your number one spot. Working as a delivery boy seems like a decent gig. You get a paycheck and tips on top of it. But in the case of this driver, he might want to tack on a couple extra zeros to this kid's bill, considering the boy took off with his car.
Police say this kid called in the Chinese food order himself, waited for the delivery guy to get to the door, then he jumped in and took off with his car. Today, that delivery driver is back to work. His car is a little scratched up.
I would be so paranoid going on any future deliveries if I were that driver. Like, how does a kid even think to do something like this? You got to give the kid a little recognition, though. He sure was crafty and planned this out very well. Aside from having any destination in mind, after being caught, the boy hopped from his stolen vehicle, which was still in motion, and managed to hit a patrol car as if his bills weren't already adding up. The boy dashed away, but didn't exactly get too far before police caught up to him and cuffed him for his multitude of crimes. Fortunately, the delivery driver's car didn't sustain any serious damage, but on the other end, I really hope he didn't have any deliveries to make. Regardless, I'd imagine the kid's mom gave the guy a generous tip for all the trouble her son caused on this